Welcome aboard. We're going to put you down on our roster.
Thank you. I'm going to mute until we're ready to go.
Okay, same here.
Thanks.
Hello, Mayor.
Hello.
We got you down on the roster too. All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's 6 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and start our hazard vulnerability assessment meeting. And I'm Gary Smith. I'm the director for Carter County Emergency Management Agency.
I'm Billy Harrell, Deputy Director for Emergency Management.
And like I said, we are here this evening to kind of discuss the hazards that are present within Carter County that are known. And we have a hazard vulnerability plan, or hazard mitigation plan rather, that has a full breakout, and that plan is available on the Carter County website. It's a very long document, but it's very detailed, and it goes through every single threat and hazard that basically exists within Carter County. And we go through it each year to try to rack and stack and figure out what the actual threats are, and just to see if anything has changed. And in keeping with the pandemic information, this meeting is being conducted electronically so that we maintain the safety and protection for the general public and their welfare. And with that, we will go ahead and get started. And I'm going to share my screen so that you can see kind of how the process goes as far as how they look at each individual hazard. Okay. This is the formula that they used when we hired a contractor a couple of years ago to come in and actually go through and help us put our hazard mitigation plan together. And this is the format and the formula that they used when they started looking at each individual hazard that's out there. And I just wanted to show you that so that you understood that this is a very complex process. There's a lot of things that go into it. And if you look at the formula itself, it talks about the probability and frequency and the potential magnitude and scale. And then there's factors for each one of those areas within this formula. And with that, they develop a score that racks and stacks what are the most likely hazards that we could run into. And let me scroll down. Okay, and this is the scoring index, and the color coding actually coincides with the vulnerability for each hazard and then the capability or capacity for dealing with that. And as we go on, you'll see in a second, there are color charts that go through and break out, and you can actually look at it and determine very quickly what the major hazards are. And as we come into this one, you're going to see, if I can get it to scroll without running away from me. Well, it went way down. Sorry about that, folks. Bear with me. There we go. And welcome to Michelle Matson. Glad you were able to join us, Michelle.
I almost forgot because I was into my Hallmark Christmas movies.
Oh my gosh. Well, this one is giving me a fit. I'm sorry, folks.
I've got you on the roster, Michelle.
Can we blame the screen on Billy somehow?
I'm sure we can. We'll find some way to do it. All right, here we go. This is the actual breakout of the hazards that are identified within our plan. And the yellow color coding means that it is vulnerable. The orange means it's somewhat vulnerable. And the green means that it's minimally vulnerable. So the orange things are obviously the things that we're more likely to see than the green and so on. But if you look through the scores here, that's what I'd really like for everybody to take a look at this evening and kind of give me any kind of input or feedback as far as how you feel these should be racked and stacked. And bear in mind now, the way that we do this is it's based on actual events, things that have actually happened within our county. And that's where the ratings become very important, because obviously any of these can happen. The question is, what is the probability that they're going to happen, and how frequently are they going to happen? So that's where we're looking tonight. And I can tell you right now, I went back through and looked at the incidents just for the last 3 years. And the one incident that we have dealt with more than any other is flooding. And probably second to that would be the severe weather, either thunderstorms, heavy winter storms, things like that. So these are actually not going to probably change a tremendous amount unless you guys have something that we've missed. And that's why we want to open it up to the public and give everybody an opportunity to provide us that kind of feedback.
Hey, Gary,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm kind of surprised that your frequency and probability of flooding is so low. I would have thought that that would have been, I mean, higher than your hazardous materials incident.
I would agree with that. And again, that's one of the reasons why we wanted to get together and chat about this tonight, because I agree with you. I think the frequency and probability, just based on what I've seen since I've been in this job, it is certainly more frequent and more probable than a hazardous materials incident.
Oh, exactly.
That's true.
Yeah, the high winds, Billy's just pointing out that the high winds, we've had quite a bit of that. Of course,
Yeah.
you know, extreme, we've had some severe thunderstorms. And as you remember, in July 2016, we had the damaging winds that ended up taking the lives of 2 of our citizens.
Because, I mean, they've got that frequency and probability for flooding is the same as earthquakes.
And well, wildfire, which wildfire, I think is actually, if you look at it, is pretty
Yeah.
close to where
I
it should
agree.
be. You know, thunderstorms obviously I think that one's pretty good, because the higher the number, the more likely we are to see it. And
I mean, I think that I would like to see the flooding a 50. I mean, just me. I mean, that's just me. I mean, just based on what that I've in the times that I've dealt with you guys, it seems to be there's a lot more flooding than what that chart's showing.
yeah, I would say that probably the hazardous materials incident needs to be flipped with flooding.
Exactly.
For the frequency and probability.
Yeah.
And again, like you said, it's based on what we've actually seen here. And well, 2018, just for example, we had a major snowstorm. We had a strong windstorm. We had flooding on October of 2018. We had flooding again in December of 2018. And then we had some wildfires and stuff. So, and then if you go to 2019, we've had 2 major floods. 2020, we've had 2 floods.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think, matter of fact, it may need to be a little bit higher, more like 60.
Yeah.
Hey, Gary,
Yes.
this Caroline, quick question. The values that are in those boxes, did you say that those are related to actual events, or is it a scale based on just predictability and not an arbitrary scale, but a scale set to be engaged back and forth on likelihood? And if so, what is that scale range? Like 38 out of what?
Out of 100.
Thank you.
And yes, it is based on actual events, but like I showed earlier, did you see the formula that they used when they calculated all this originally? This was done in 2017, by the way.
Yes, I did.
Okay, yeah, that formula, they weighted certain factors, and, you know, they worked with FEMA. FEMA came back on us when we submitted it originally, and they wanted us to tweak it a little bit, and so that's what they did. They went back and looked at the formula. But I'm kind of like Michelle. I'm not thinking that flooding, it should be as low as it is here. And I agree with some of the other scores it has there as far as the impacts on the community and the consequence and everything like that. Their scores are up there.
Yeah.
But I think the frequency and probability needs to be a little bit higher.
Well, Gary, if the scale is to 100, then I would say that it should need to be over 50, because that is the hazard that we deal with more than half of the time when we're dealing with a hazard.
I agree with you. And that's exactly why we wanted to have this kind of a meeting so that we can sit down and make sure that we're not looking at things with a skewed eye or something. But you're right. We've had a lot of flooding, and that's been the most common event outside of man-caused events, you know, motor vehicle accidents and things like that, which are not normally considered in a hazard vulnerability assessment. HVAs tend to be natural events primarily, although we do look a little bit more now at technological and man-caused events than we did in the past. But taking a look at the scale, does anybody see anything else that is looks to be a little bit out of kilter?
Hey, Gary, when it comes to extreme cold,
Yes,
what
ma'am.
are your temperatures that you usually have up there on Roan Mountain and stuff?
I'd say if you're talking extreme cold, you're talking 0 and below.
Oh, okay.
That would be my guess. Now, again, I'd have to go back and look at exactly what they used when they put this together. But, you know, we have temperatures here, as you know, normally 0 to 30 is not uncommon this time of year.
Right.
But when you start getting down below 0, then that's when it becomes more of a concern. And I believe, and I would have to go back and look at that, but I believe that's what they based it on.
I think you're right. I think it's 0 and below.
And let's see, there's also more continued down here. These are other incidents. And here you see a couple of the technological or man-caused events, the rail incidents, pipeline incidents. And there's also some others that some plans look at, ours didn't, that we decided not to include anything beyond those events in this particular one, but we are certainly open to looking at any incident that you all think needs to be included. So with that, do you see anything here that looks out of kilter?
I don't.
And, you know, one input that we got a lot when we originally went through this was, well, you know, tornadoes, they happen all the time. And it's like, well, they do, but in Carter County, we've only had 4 recorded touchdowns since I think it's 1880 something, 1888, I believe. So yeah, it's possible, and that's why you see the score here is so low. But you know, when you look at the potential impacts, obviously that's where it would be high. Should we have one? And the rail transportation is very low here. We have a very short segment of rail lines running through Carter County, and we don't have a tremendous amount of pipelines running through. We do have some natural gas pipelines and stuff. So landslides, that one we're seeing a little bit more, but that tends to be associated with the highways where they've cut out through the mountains for the highways and things. Drought, as you remember in 2016, we had pretty severe drought all across the entire southeastern United States. And that, of course, is when we had the Gatlinburg fires. And we had fires that spring up on railroad grade. So again, the consequence can be pretty high for stuff like that. So any questions or suggestions, ideas, thoughts?
Looks good to me, Gary. Thanks.
Okay, well,
I agree. I think that page is pretty spot on.
So basically, if we flip the flooding and stuff on the previous page, we'll be okay. Let's go back up and
Copy
take
that.
a look. Okay. Let's take a quick look at it and just like I said, see if you see anything else that you think maybe we need to adjust. We do flooding. I'm gonna put it at like 60. And then
Yeah, I think 60 looks good.
we'll put that down about 38.
Yeah.
And then I think personally, based on what I've seen since I've been in this position, I think everything else looks pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think the scores are pretty much where they need to be. But like I said, we'll open it up to anybody.
Larry, you got anything on anything about the electrical side of it from the electric company?
No, I don't have anything to add. It's kind of interesting. I haven't seen this in a while, and I'm glad to get to look at it as a refresher.
We're glad you joined us.
Because I know you all deal a lot with the high winds and just wanted to see if you had anything about that.
No, we do respond to wind damage real frequently, but it's usually isolated, usually.
Yeah, with 2016 being the exception,
Right,
that was pretty ugly.
yes. So,
If I-
in my recollection to past discussions like this, at one time there was some talk about early warning systems throughout the county. Did that ever go anywhere? Did it ever get to a committee, get to anywhere it could actually be worked on?
Well, it depends on what you're talking about, because we do have a mass notification system that we contract through Everbridge right now. We're actually looking at that contract as we speak, but it has warnings for pretty much everything you can imagine, and high winds is one of them.
Okay, how is it broadcasted?
Well, it goes through any kind of communication means you can think of. You can come through telephone, cell phone, text, facsimile,
Email?
email, just about any communications method that you can think of. It has the capability to distribute that message.
Even landline?
Yeah, do you have to sign up for this service to get it?
Yes, you do. But it doesn't, there's no charge for it. The county and the city of Elizabethton actually fund that.
Okay, well, is there a lot of participation?
There's pretty fair participation. It's not what we'd like to see. It's probably, the last time I took a look at it, there was roughly about 2,000 households had signed up for it. I would love to see every household in Carter County signed up.
Yeah, I wasn't aware. I guess I missed that. But nevertheless, that is a good thing to have, and I'm glad to know it.
It is, and it does work very well. It has automated weather warnings, which, as we're talking about here right now, weather events are the most likely for our particular area. And like I said, we are hooked into the National Weather Service through that system. And as soon as they issue the warning out of the National Weather Service office, it goes out through our system. And if you have signed up for it, then you will be notified. And the neat thing about it is you can even go in and set quiet hours so that, the lesser threats they're not going to call you and wake you up for those. But if we have something like a tornado headed your way, it will go ahead and override your quiet hour settings and notify you so that we can try to keep you safe.
That's a good idea. That's great. System sounds like.
It works.
No, I don't have any questions on the other parts of it, the assessments and so on. It looks like it's been worked on, and I think it's a good idea to review this every now and then. I just hadn't been able to do that for a while.
Well, we're certainly glad you came today.
Yep. Thank you, Larry.
Hey,
Yeah,
Gary.
Thank you, Billy. Gary?
Yes, ma'am.
For 2020, do we add the COVID-19 virus and give it 100s across the board?
I think we're going to have to. Actually, pandemic is one of the things that we have looked at, and that is
Yeah,
one,
no kidding.
obviously, that we need to include. So the hard part is going to be figuring out the probability, frequency, and all that, because, obviously we haven't had a major pandemic since, 1918 until 2020. But the impact is obviously huge. So I think we probably need to include that as well.
Actually, on a more reliable note, because like you said, a pandemic comes around hopefully once in my lifetime. But on a more realistic level, should we consider not only pandemic, but hospital surge capacity as a vulnerability, as a hazard and a vulnerability?
Well, indirectly, they do that. You know, the hospitals are required to also do a hazard vulnerability assessment every year.
Perfect.
And so it's not part of the county plan, but it is done as part of the overall planning effort within the county.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am. And we've been fortunate. Sycamore Shoals has always included us, and we have gone and participated in their HVA pretty much every year since I've been here. All right. What else y'all have for us? Good discussion. You have anything else?
No.
Okay, well, if no one else has anything, I think we're pretty much done going through with a quick review. I thank each one of you for joining us this evening, and of course, you can feel free to call us anytime. If you think of something that, hey, I wish I'd have thought of that when the meeting was going on, you can call us at 542-1888, and we'll be more than happy to take your input. Thank you.
Good job, guys.
Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Billy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you joining us.
Mhm.
We're even glad you joined, Michelle.
That is not nice.
No, we seriously do. Thank you much.
You're welcome. You guys